have a really stark challenge of government, if you want. We started the Industrial Revolution exploiting fossil fuels about 150 years ago, but we know now from science that we'll need to stop that reliance on fossil fuels for our economic growth in the next 30 or 40 years. And that's a huge challenge, not just for governments, but for society at large, from corporations to every households. It has a lot of difficult transitions and dislocations that are part of that process. And if we look at my country, the United States, over the past few weeks, we've seen some short-sighted decisions on this topic. But if we look further around the world, we see some opportunities as well. So here in this country, we are today burning about as much greenhouse gases, putting out as much greenhouse gases as we did 117 years ago, around the turn of the last century. If we looked at China, we'll see that even though the rate of growth has been very sharp in the past few years, it may now be the case that China's total emissions have been flat for the last 2 or 3 years, suggesting that peaking may come sooner than we even thought was possible. And so this transition, which is very difficult and fraught, is also one of great opportunity. And I'm delighted that we're able to welcome now someone who's at the very forefront of that challenge, someone who has been involved in the role in this fantastic transition that we're seeing in China today. And that person is Dr. Yinbiao, who is the chairman of State Grid Corporation of China. Now, State Grid Corporation of China is not a household name that consumers who buy things see every day, but it's actually the second largest corporation of any kind in the world, and the world's largest utility company. And as a provider of power to over 1 billion Chinese, and also a provider of power to many other millions of people around the world, a corporation who is fundamentally integrated in this question of how we bridge the gap in sustainability and economic growth going forward. So I won't introduce Dr. Xu in detail. You can read his biography in your programs, but I think it's not difficult to see the level of experience required to manage a transition of this size, of this speed, for this many people, and to do so with such foresight and vision, which we'll hear about now. So please welcome me and join me in welcoming Dr. Xu to speak about Energizing China. Dr. Xu will speak for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll have a chance for your questions, so please be thinking about them as we listen to his remarks. Dr. Xu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. It's my great pleasure to attend today's conference in beautiful Oxford. I would like to take this opportunity to share my views on how to build a society with more cohesion. Since the reform and the opening up in the 80s, China has witnessed remarkable economic growth and social progress. In recent years, China stuck to 5 development concepts of building an innovative, harmonious, green, open, and shared society, giving priority to supply-side structural reform. The Chinese economy has entered a new normal featured by speeding shifting structure optimization and the changes of growth drivers. Nowadays, new industries and new economies grew rapidly with new forms of business and model. During the first 5 months of this year, the total power consumption of China increased by 6.4% year-on-year basis, in which electrified railway, telecommunication, IT service exceeded 10%. It illustrates a medium to high growth speed of Chinese economy and the strong momentum of industrial structure towards medium to high end. Meanwhile, China has been advancing economical globalization. President Xi Jinping proposed the Belt and Road Initiative, injecting new driving forces for economic globalization. On May 14th, in keynote speech on the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, President Xi Jinping mentioned that we need to seize opportunities presented by the new round of change in energy mix and the revolution in technology to develop global energy interconnection and achieve green and low carbon development. Energy transition is essential for economy transition. Chinese government had been committed to pushing energy transition in terms of sustainable development to meet global target of emission reduction. The revolution in energy production and consumption had been a national strategy so as to change coal-dominated energy structure to a clean, efficient, and low-carbon energy system. State Grid Corporation of China is the largest utility in the world, providing power to 1.1 billion people, covering 88% of the Chinese territory. In addition to our core business, we also have equipment manufacturing, finance service, and global business. With $300 billion revenue in 2016, State Grid ranked the second on Fortune Global 500. We are committed to delivering clean energy and facilitate sustainable development, fully implement the social responsibility for a world-class power grid and a world-leading enterprise. First, talk about building strong and smart grid to support Chinese economy growth and energy transition. Since the start of the 21st century, the Chinese economy saw an average annual growth of more than 9%, with their power installed capacity grew at a double digit. State Grid has been increasing its investment in grids with more than $400 billion after 2010. This greatly improved grid-related technologies and equipment, as well as the capability of optimizing energy and resources allocation, thus meeting the growing power demand and the installed capacity. State Grid also made full use of the role of the grid as a fundamental platform to promote the massive development and the use of clean energy. By the end of 2016, the integrated installed capacity of wind and solar had reached 130 gigawatt and 70 gigawatt respectively in our service area, making it the world's largest grid in terms of installed capacity and growth speed of renewable energy. The non-fossil fuels in China accounted for 13.3% of primary energy consumption, 4.7 percentage points higher than that of 2010. Secondly, developing technical innovation, pioneering global power grid technology. Since 2011, State Grid has been increasing its investment in the R&D of UHV technology, smart grid, and large grid control with a total of 12 billion US dollars and a series of world-leading innovative results which pioneered the industry. In UHV power transmission, we have mastered the world's most advanced UHV transmission technology that enables large capacity power transmission over long distance with less land loss and land use. State Grid is operating and constructing 20 UHV projects with a total length of over 30,000 kilometers. UHV technology can economically and efficiently deliver power from large renewable energy bases in West and North China to load center in East and Central China, which are 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers away. The UHV power transmission technology has been exported to Brazil with a broad application potential. The construction of Blavatnik UHV transmission project is able to deliver hydropower from Amazon River to São Paulo load center. In terms of smart grid, State Grid has built a series of world-leading innovative demonstration projects, including flexible DC transmission projects and the national wind PV storage transmission project. Besides, we have deployed 427 million smart meters, which topped the world. To cope with the new situation of rapid development of EVs, we have built a quick battery charging network covering 13,000 kilometers of highway in 212 cities and the world's largest smart internet of vehicles, integrating 161,000 charging poles to serve 1 million EVs. Regarding large grid control, State Grid actively responded to the challenges brought by the high percentage integration of renewable energy to secure safety and the stability of power grid. For more than 20 years, State Grid has maintained safe and stable operation. Thirdly, expanding the global market in the context of the Belt and Road Initiative. We are committed to building an international cooperation by actively expanding its global business and giving priority to investment and operation of grid assets, grid, EPC for projects, and international standardization. In overseas infrastructure investment and operation, we have been successfully M&A quality asset in 6 countries and regions, including Philippines, Brazil, Portugal, Australia, and Italy. State Grid has invested 15 billion US dollars in overseas projects with 56 billion US dollars assets while making very good results. Regarding grid connectivity, State Grid is building 10 transnational power transmission lines with neighboring countries, including Russia, Mongolia, etc. In EPC and production cooperation, State Grid is actively participating in the construction of global power projects in Brazil, Ethiopia, Poland, and Laos, etc., with a total value of 38.8 billion US dollars. We were offered the bid in National Grid Shetland Islands Flexible DC Transmission Project in UK. State Grid initiated and developed 39 international standards in IEC, IEEE, and other standardization organizations, covering advanced power transmission, smart grid, EV charging, the integration of renewable energy in power grid, and other emerging technologies. Fourthly, we are committed to realizing comprehensive economic, social, and environmental values. State grid integrates social responsibility in its corporate culture and the implementation of development strategies and plans as well as a business operation. We have made great efforts to improve power access. State grid managed to provide power to areas with no access to electricity through grid extension and the development of distributed generation, realizing power for all, thus enabling residents in remote areas and islands to enjoy the life with electricity. State grid has accelerated rural grid upgrading. Since 2010, more than $90 billion have been invested to reduce the duration of a power outage in rural area by 40%, which greatly improved the production and living conditions of the rural areas and promoted the balanced development of rural and urban areas. We also actively participate in power recovery caused by natural disaster. State grid is devoted to building environmental friendly power grids by advanced transmission technologies. Besides, we strictly follow environmental standards by using green construction technologies to reduce the impact of project construction. In our overseas operators, we strictly observe the local laws and respect the local culture and the customers, actively participate public charity activities. For example, in Janeiro, State Grid Brazil Holding Company founded the table tennis program and the education helping children in 10 schools. We funded an orchestra composed solely of children from slums, which gained the applause of local residents. State Grid was awarded in Best Power Company in Brazil. Ladies, gentlemen, and dear friends, China is a fast developing country, and the State Grid is a rapid growing company. We are looking forward to strengthening communications, deepening mutual understanding, and carrying out more cooperation with all sides to make our own contributions to a better world. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Xu, for that fascinating overview of the issues State Grid is confronted in energizing China and the issues it will confront as ambition expands, not just in China, but internationally. I'm sure there are many questions. I think we have time for a few. So please, when you ask a question, could you identify yourself and make it efficient so that we have time for everyone to come into the conversation. May I start with Li Fan, please? A microphone will arrive momentarily.
First of all, and thank you very much, Dr. Xu, for your stimulating talk about the energy issue facing China. I'm Li Fan. I'm a professor from Fudan University and currently a visiting fellow at Oxford. My question is that what is your personal reaction and towards President Donald Trump's decision to pull out from the Paris Accord? And also, will China feel comfortable to be now pushing into the driving seat in confronting the global climate change and the green economy, and also in your field, the clean energy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, for the common interest for the whole mankind, I think the Paris, the COP21 is a very good agreement. Most of the countries in the world will stick to these principles. They will contribute to combat the climate change. It's true. Also, from the person from the state grid, I surely believe the investment on the renewables can never stop. The technologies, the research and the development can never stop. So whether or not the president, U.S. president to say something, but we think we will go forward along the way by the COP21. I firmly believe that.
And can I ask you China's role as a leader in this transition?
Well, Chinese government will take the responsibilities according to the agreement cited in the COP21.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, please.
Eric Beinhocker, Oxford University. Dr. Xu, thank you for giving us some reasons to be optimistic in your talk. My question is, we all know that the price of solar and other renewables has been coming down very rapidly. At what point in China do you think we will reach a tipping point when renewables are more economically attractive than fossil fuels? Is that coming soon from your experience, or are you already reaching it in some places?
Thank you for your question. In recent years, we have seen, in China, renewables is much greater than the average level of the world. We think Chinese government made a commitment to further development of the renewables. The government will still have a policies, the economic support for the renewable development. It's for sure. Thank you.
All right.
Chairman Chu, a national strategy for energy, and you have been implementing that. Some of us live in countries where the government does not seem to have an energy strategy. But in many countries, you know, the current elections are bringing, you say, are the first two things that those ministers of energy should do. So looking at countries where there isn't a strategy, if you were just to give them a friendly word of advice, what are the first two things they should do towards a strategy?
Well, if we want to go in the right direction, I think we'd better to have a energy strategy is much more helpful to fulfill our target. And for the one or two priorities for the energy development, I think first, in the world, we have a common sense that we must, the renewable energies are the must to deal with climate change. This is, we should have a common sense of that. Firmly go forward to the energy transition from the high carbon energy to the low carbon energy system. That's for sure. This is the first thing I would like to say. The secondly, the technologies for the renewables. We should cooperate between the universities, organizations, to make the technology, to make through the technologies, such as the battery storage, the smart grid, and the customer active response. A lot of new technologies ahead of us. We can cooperate together to deal with the technologies.
Thank you. Question in the back, please.
Thank you very much. I'm a student from the London School of Economics. Thank you for your wonderful speech. And my question is about the diversification of energy suppliers. When we talk about energy transition, we're also thinking about the diversification of energy sources. But the private companies is a big investor and innovator in clean energy. So my question is, first, does state-grid cooperation has any cooperation with private, foreign, and domestic companies in the area of renewable energy? And does Chinese government has any intention or plan to open the space for private companies to supply the public good of energy? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, State Grid is looking for more opportunities to cooperate with international peers. Like mentioned earlier in my speech, we have already had a business in 6 countries and regions. Now we are still looking for more opportunities in the following things. First, we would like to put more investment on the power asset. Also, we look for the opportunities for EPC projects to connect the grids in order to facilitate the large amount of renewables. And the Chinese government, State Grid, is doing the overseas business according to the market principles, where we do the business with our partners with mutual benefits, mutual construction. Yeah, that's our principle for the overseas business.
Wonderful. Well, I think the principles of mutual benefit and mutual cooperation are an excellent set of notes to carry through the rest of our session today. We'll have to bring this discussion to a close here, but please join me in thanking Dr. Xu and State Grid Corporation of China.